Okay, this is a Renaissance by Wallace K. Ferguson. Here comes help. Little orange kitty. Close examination of the Middle Age led to the discovery of the Renaissance of the 12th century, and to the realization that many of the characteristics of the Renaissance were already in existence in the preceding period. Conversely, Hussarians in the preceding period to the continuation of much that was medieval through the 14th and 15th centuries. From the double approach has grown a healthy emphasis on the continuality of development from the one period to the other, though it has left the chronological limits of the Renaissance vague in the extreme and has destroyed much of the integrity that Burckhardt gave it. Finally, there has been of late a growing tendency to stress the importance of economic and social changes and to find in them a clue to the other changes in the culture of age. Late. It is this last tendency that suggests that what seems to be the most satisfactory and interpretational of the Renaissance. None of the other interpretations mentioned above furnish an adequate examination of the fundamental changes in Europe's civilization which occurred at the end of the Middle Ages, nor do they provide a sufficiency inclusive characterization of Renaissance culture. Too often, cultural historians have considered only the literary, artistic, philosophy, or religious manifestation of the Renaissance, treating each of those as though it had an independent existence, while political and economic historians have usually been content to leave these to the specific specialists, and adequate sympathies must include not only the intellectual and the aesthetic elements of Renaissance civilization, but also the economic, social, and political, and the former can best be understood by approaching them from a study of changing economic conditions in their interrelation with social and political institutions. It is, of course, impossible to find in economic conditions a directly traceable cause or a sufficient explanation of all of the intellectual and artistic or even the social and political phenomenon of any age. There are too many factors that must be taken into consideration, such as the creative contribution of the individual men of genius and the qualifying effect of religious, philosophical, literacy, and artistic traditions inherited from the past. Moreover, there is a constant interplay among the various elements of changing civilization, so that the development and economic life may itself influence intellectual preconceptional, and by establishing political and social institutions. Nevertheless, economic conditions, the way men make a living, form the necessary basis of civilization. They determine in large part the character and interest of the social classes and set a limit to the variety of cultural forms possible of any given time, together with the political and social organizations of the age. They form an environment in which writers, artists, preachers, thinkers live, and they exercise an inescapable influence upon their ideas and attitudes. And when there is a fundamental change in the necessary bias of civilizations, it is only reasonable to expect roughly corresponding changes in political, social, and cultural superstructure, through a latter may be delayed and modified by the force of traditional custom. Such a change took place in Western Europe at the end of the early Middle Ages. With a revival of commerce and growth of towns in the midst of what had been amongst the purity agregoria economic economy. Love phonics. Thank you, phonics. These dynamic forces gradually altered the foundations of medieval society, though for more than 2 centuries the feudal and ecclesiastic classes retained their dominant positions, set the tone of European culture, and maintained a traditional framework of political and social life. By the beginning of the 14th century, however, the economic change had begun to effect a radical alteration in both the political and the social structures of the Western countries. But even then, the aftermath of the corresponding intellectual change was beginning only in Italy. It did not appear in the north till the century or more later, as a period of the historical European civilization. The distinguished characteristics of the Renaissance is to be found in this transformation of culture. and a result of change from a natural economic to one based on money, from a rural society to one in which the influential classes directly from trade. The Renaissance grew out of the Middle Ages and was a period of gradual transitions, but its most typically culture was that of the cities and their people. From that point of view, it may be said that the Renaissance began when the new urban and the secular elements in Europe culture began to weigh down the balance, kitten, against the feudal and essential elements which had dominated civilization in the Middle Ages.